Hello and welcome to Rest and Recovery. So you might be thinking, sleep, stress management, rest and recovery? Yes, I do believe that each of those deserve their own day. And ultimately, a lot of physical vitality is about recovering and not allowing inflammation, tension to get to a point that we can't recover from and can't allow our energy to flow. So, rest and recovery can include stress management and sleep, but those definitely need their own day. So, recovery to me is about the body's ability to recover, and rest is partly psychological, but also there's a little bit of a difference between it. So, we're going to go into that today. Basically, I think there's four types of recovery. Or you could think of this as four things that contribute to recovery. So we've got active recovery. So that's things like doing yoga, walking, stretching, where let's say more so after activity exercise, where the body is definitely in an acute recovery phase and you're keeping it moving, keeping blood flow, nutrients moving, oxygen throughout the body. And so that's what I would call active recovery. Then we've got stretching and mobility, which is the elongating of muscles that's allowing them to not be stiff, to again help with blood flow and helping to preserve some level of flexibility. Then we have nutrient intake, which obviously is key to be able to provide the nutrients and the fuel for the body to repair itself. And then finally, we have rest, which is its own aspect of recovery that we'll dive into now. So there's 7 types of rest that was popularized by Dr. Saundra Dalton Smith. And basically they are physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, sensory, and creative. So obviously physical would be the immediate one and mental makes sense, but then really going into the other areas. And if you're familiar with the Wheel of Life graphic, imagine replacing those areas of life with the areas that I've just spoken. And we can sometimes prioritize rest physically, but then we're on our phone, we're staying productive, we're doing like a heap of mentally active things, and we're not actually giving our mind a chance to have a rest. And that activity of the mind can translate to tension in the body. I certainly get caught in that a lot. And that's something that I need to be quite mindful of. My solution to that is to have points of meditation throughout the day, and that can allow me to reside in a bit of a rested state, because if I let that go out of check, the mind tends to get in control and then seeks more stimulation. So by me actually having points throughout the day where I kind of reconnect with stillness and inner being, that allows that to not get out of check. Now, emotional, obviously, that can be quite intense. And if we've got a constant barrage of emotions externally or internally being generated within us, then that is something that at some point is going to take away from our overall rest. Because you could really think about this as overall rest is like this sphere, and it's got all of those little other spheres or parts within it. And if one is completely out of balance, it's going to start depleting from the overall rest that we can get. So emotional rest can come through sharing our feelings with people we trust. So you know that sense of connecting with people that get you and you can just kind of relay to them and be feeling like this sense of nervous system calm where you're like, and you just express what you feel and you really are able to kind of let go of a lot of tension. On the other side, it could be creating boundaries that then allow you to not have to get drawn into emotionally draining dynamics, which leads into the next area of rest, social rest. And you'd know this, your social battery. There's times where you feel like going out and connecting with others, and there's definitely times where you feel like being within your own energy and just not seeing anyone. So I think that one's we're all pretty familiar with these days. I think the nuance to that is it's not just black and white that we do or don't want to see people. It's that we want to see our people. And I think we are starting to realize we have energy for the people that we relate to, and that we can talk about higher level things where people really understand where we're coming from and want to talk about similar wavelength topics. But then when you're around people that take away from your energy, that's really where the social rest becomes important. Next, we have sensory rest, which that's becoming ever more important. I realize as I speak to you through one of the main culprits. Now, even outside of our phone, general overstimulation, loud noises, television, whatever it may be, that all contributes to sensory stimulation. So it's typically technology these days, and I'm really working towards creating something where once a month I can go away for a weekend and just unplug and not have any exposure. Work in progress there, but I really think that's going to be a key way forward. Next, we have creative rest. So this can become a higher need when, let's say, we're trying to create things, social media content, artwork, whatever it be, writing, and you get to that point of there's not enough creativity coming through to keep up with the amount of focus that you're putting on that. And that's a really tricky thing with creativity, that it almost works better by having a constraint. So if you've ever not been able to do something and then you're kind of thinking about it and it's building up this well of ideas and creativity, and then eventually you're like, oh, I'm going to do this, and you can kind of channel all of that energy that's been built into a project, versus when you go to do something, you just get a canvas out, an empty page, a social media post, and you're like, what do I write? And it just evaporates your creativity. So I think the key with creative rest is really to find a way to allow the creativity to flow through you without running it dry. And finally, we have spiritual rest. So spiritual rest really manifests when we're disconnected from our inner self, our purpose, our values, and ultimately it's about bringing ourselves back to self, feeling like we're on that path to who we want to be. And in week 4, that's exactly what we'll do. So I've taken this concept a little bit further, and I think about it as each of these areas having 3 phases: needing rest, sustaining maintenance, and expanding into growth. In each of these areas, let's say physical, where are you at? Are you needing rest? Are you wanting to maintain? Are you desiring growth? Ultimately, you don't want to have all areas in growth, and you don't want to have too many areas needing rest, because ultimately it would be good to, let's say, have every area in maintenance and then a few select areas in growth. So while it is possible to grow in every area simultaneously, if you're consciously doing it, then it's probably better to focus on 1 or 2, maybe 3 areas at max that all kind of work synergistically to take you in the same direction. If it's organically happening that you're flourishing in every area, then great. But yeah, if you're choosing, keep it simple, keep it direct, and that way you'll be able to get better outcomes. So that, I hope, was insightful on the different areas of rest and recovery. Now, just before I go, some of the things that impact recovery, and really you have 4 big ones: overtraining, too much physical exertion that your body can't recover from. And so depending on where your body is at in its ability to recover will depend on what amount of physical exertion is going to overtrain you. For example, one person might find that going to the gym 6 days a week and doing hiking and walking on top of that is sustainable. Another person might find that exercise, weight training, if they've got an infection or something else chronically going on in their body, might actually be causing a level of overtraining for them. So that's very much a individual case that you have to assess for yourself. But generally, if you're feeling run down, muscles are getting sore, sleep is deteriorating, then it's probably be worth looking at. Next up, we have stress, including mental, emotional, and physical. And that is one of the worst for recovery. Then we have sleep, and that's probably on par, pretty linked with stress in a lot of ways, really. If your sleep goes out the window, then that is going to really severely impact your recovery. So that's certainly an absolute key to all areas of physical vitality. And finally, we have inadequate nutrition. And this can be a little bit more of a slow over time type scenario where the lack of nutrients will eventually cause a deficiency and then recovery issues. But even still, that's definitely something that you want to be keeping on top of just to give your body the best ability to recover. And ultimately, when you do have a good level of oxygen flowing through the body, more blood flow and nutrients being delivered in that blood flow, you're really going to find your body is in a far better state for physical vitality. So today I've got some action items to help with your rest and recovery. So I've included 5, but I want you to pick one. And I want you to comment in the Slack community, what's going to be the one that you need most that you're going to do for the next 3 days? You've got a few to choose from. You've got meditation, going for a walk after meals, stretching in the evening, setting aside time for fun and adventure. Now, I really encourage you to pick the one that you feel is the most resistance for you, while also choosing the one that you are going to do. So they're on opposite ends of the spectrum there. But some people will find it hard to set aside time for fun and adventure. But you know what? That's going to be the exact thing that gives you the most rest and recovery. On the other side, someone might be having trouble with digestion and other things that going for a walk after meals would benefit. So I really encourage you to find one of those that's going to be best for you. Thank you for joining me, and that has been our week of physical vitality. So I look forward to stepping into mental clarity next week with you, and I'll see you in the Slack community.